Music, as far as contrast is concerned, is like the tension and release of a spring. So in contrast, we would say, well, you have a spring, say something that you see under the wheels of your car and your wheel well would be for the strut. The kind of spring that you have is a compression spring. Of course, we need great power to push it together, but the greater power, in contrast to what it's pushing back, is going to create greater tension. The more you press it, the more tension it creates. Just like music, different types of chords, when contrasted to one another, create different types of tension. I'm Chris Moses, and this is Gospel Progressions University. Do you get the song? All right, so I'm not gonna do the entire thing. So now if I wanted to take something like that and contrast it and create some kind of tension, I already did, I'll explain it. I would do something like this, so. So the key center for this is in B flat major, right? And the first turnaround that I did after I left, I played the B flat mixolydian. It's basically E flat major, but starting from B flat as your tonic. So I did the 2 chord for E flat, which would be F minor. And then I did a 5 chord, a dominant chord here. We have B flat, or this one here, our tritone, and the color tone is the B. So this here wants to resolve perfectly to that. That's the first thing that I did. So a minor 2 chord, a B flat, flat 9, to an E flat, E flat 2. Right, so now, instead of doing that the second time, you saw this. And you may think to yourself, wow, how'd that work? That actually sounds good. To me it does. So if you like it, good. So now what I did here was I used a scale, okay? And back to scales again, just like we would diatonically with our major scale in B flat, we have every chord tone just sticking to that. That's what diatonic means, every note. We kind of left that a little bit. But the secret sauce is that there's harmony that's going on. So with this tension and release, a lot of times we'll see, that's why I set it up to play the first time one way, and the second time I said, well, let's do something different, because it sets up the unexpected. That's what contrast is. You see that there's a stark difference. You're sitting in a hot house, somebody got the heat up to 85, you go outside, it's minus 12, there's a contrast in temperature, automatically your body's gonna respond to it. Well, just like your body responds, people's ear responds to musical change as well. So with that setup and with that contrast, like I said, we set up a contrast, we made it great. So when the tension came, it was great. When it was released, it was like, oh, okay, wow, I see what he's doing there. He got right back to what he was playing before. So one way to express our tension and this sort of contrast is to use an exotic scale. And the exotic scale I want to look at is the augmented scale. So the augmented scale, it's a hexatonic scale. That means it's a 6-tone scale. So E flat hexatonic is going to be E flat, G flat, G, B flat, B, and D, and back to E flat, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And because it's even, we tend to see patterns that pop up. It's the evenness of the scale and also the spacing, the interval of the notes as well. So we have the 6, but we also have the way these are spaced. And the way these are spaced, they're grouped. So one way to remember it, we can look at our very first chord. E flat, okay, we have our E flat major chord, but it's an augmented scale. So every chord is going to be augmented. The word augment means to raise. And what we're raising is the 5th interval. So for the triad E flat, the 5th interval would be B flat. That gets raised a half step. So E flat is going to be a augmented chord. G flat, G, B flat, B, and D are all augmented. So we can break this down into 2 sets. We have set 1 and set 2. Both are made up of 3 chords. So the first group is going to be chords that are major, minor, and augmented. The second group of the 3 chords are just gonna be augmented chords. So first group is gonna have major, minor, and augmented. Second group is just augmented. And that first group is comprised of these notes, or the notes that comprise the E flat augmented scale, which would be E flat, G, and B flat. So E flat is gonna be in major, minor, and augmented. So we go to G. G is major, minor, and augmented. And finally B is going to be minor, and then major and augmented. That's our first group. The second group is going to be what's left of the last 6, or the last 3 notes, giving us a total of 6. So we have our G flat. It's going to be augmented. So it's going to be actually G flat, B flat, and D. So all of these are major, minor, augmented. All of these, the last 3 are just augmented. G flat, F sharp augmented, B flat augmented, and D augmented. So now with that understanding, now we can see where our major and our minor chords would actually land. So there are 2 more ways of actually looking at the augmented scale. So E flat augmented would be made up or composed of 3 major scales, or major chords, I should say. So your major chord here is E flat major, and G major, and B major. That's it. So all of these chord tones are what make up the E flat augmented scale. Another way to look at it is to say 1 major third half. So 1 MH, 1 major half. All right. And now we go to the next one. 1 major half. And the last one. 1 major half. That's the whole scale. Because it's symmetrical, again, we have the patterns. Every major third is going to be the same augmented scale, meaning from E flat and to D, that's D flat. E flat to G flat share the same augmented scale. So if I started from E flat here, if I go to G, the same notes apply. Okay, they all apply. If I go to B, B is a major third from G. It's all going to be augmented. It shares the same exact tones. So what we can do, we can actually overlap, and we can create harmony that goes along with the 2-5-1 chord progression, because we always don't have to play a 2-5-1. 2-5-1 is a favorite among gospel musicians because we have the flat 7 here for B flat, gives us the dominant sound, and back here. Like we started, we were in B flat major, okay, and then we decided to go here. This gave it away, and it gives us our E flat. It pulls very strongly. It's, the dominant chords are magnetic to the next chord of 4th up, meaning, of course, B flat will go 4th up to E flat, and so on, and the way they resolve. But it doesn't always have to be the case. We don't have to just stick with that. We can create different textures and harmonies using these scales. So what I did here, I knew I was going to end up in E flat. I knew that was the chord I was going to. So the first thing I would do in 2-5-1 for the key of E flat, F2, B flat 5, and E flat 1. Is that, all right, I'm going to end up on the E flat. So as I went from, and now I introduce this. Remember, the first chord is going to be minor, major, and augmented, just like the third chord of the augmented triad in the scale. Minor, major, augmented. B is minor, major, augmented. Just augmented, and just augmented. So that's how we remember it. But I have choices now. So instead of just saying, well, we can do this and have some kind of dominant chord or, whatever I want to do to get back to the E flat, it gives it a nicer tone. Now, understand, when we're using these passing tones and these augmented chords, we're not gonna, it's like you're cooking food. You don't want to just say, all right, well, we have this much food, let's put this much salt, because you're going to destroy it. Meaning when you play a song, you are going to do this maybe once, and that's it for the entire song, because it gives the ear interest. It's like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying there. All right, I see, that's nice. But too much of it can become jarring. And it's a nice chord progression, you know, to use something like this. You know, you could even do a because it has a minor feel to it. It's a very dark sound, because you go from something that sounds major, and you used to, you know, you want to hear it resolve to here. But when you go to this, instead of resolving immediately, of course, to the 5, you go straight to the 2 and then 1. So it's or you can, you know, do a minor major chord on that. So the resolution is up to you. You can resolve major, you can resolve minor. You're using this very carefully and measured. One time in a song I would recommend. And furthermore, you want to look at your singer. If your singer can't keep up, your vocalist can't keep up the person that you're accompanying, meaning that if you try this and you do it with taste and they get thrown off, or they start doing this thing where they're covering one ear, then you know you're kind of messing them up. So don't bother doing it. And don't do it if you haven't learned it or don't understand the concept of what I just said about the augmented chords, because you might end up someplace else that you don't want to be. And that's okay when you're trying to practice, but you don't want to do something like this live. Again, there's a lot that I can talk about. There's a lot that I can get into this video. But what I'd like for you to do, if you haven't yet, go head on over to gospelprogressionsuniversity.com. And you can download my free guide. It's called What Do Pro Musicians Know That You Don't? It's gospelprogressionsuniversity.com/Gospel Keys Pro. God bless you, and I will see you in the next video.